Some doors we close to protect our hearts. But what if the very door keeping pain out is also keeping life from coming in? This is the story of a rusty gate, a stubborn widow, and the unexpected neighbor who taught her that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means living again. If you've ever lost someone you loved, if you've ever felt like the world moved on without you, if you've ever wondered whether it's possible to find joy after heartbreak, this story is for you. Before we begin, if you find comfort in this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories to listeners like you who need them most. Now, let me take you to a small village in the Cotswolds, where an elderly woman named Dorothy is about to discover that sometimes the hardest door to open is the one to your own heart. The morning sun touched the Cotswolds village gently. It was May, and spring had painted everything green. In a small stone cottage at the end of Willow Lane, Dorothy Henderson was awake. She was 73 years old. Her silver hair was tied neatly in a bun. She wore a cardigan her daughter had sent last Christmas. It was too big, but she wore it anyway. Dorothy had been a teacher for 40 years. She had taught children to read, to write, to dream. Now she was retired. Her days were quieter, slower. Sometimes too slow. She lived alone. Her husband Henry had passed 3 years ago. Heart attack. Quick and painless, the doctors said. But the pain had stayed with her. Every morning, Dorothy went to her garden. It was her ritual, her anchor. The garden Henry had built for her 50 years ago. Dorothy put on her gardening gloves. They were worn and patched. Henry had given them to her decades ago. She couldn't bring herself to buy new ones. She walked through the kitchen. Photographs lined the walls. Wedding day, children's birthdays, holidays in Cornwall. Henry smiled from every frame. The back door creaked as she opened it. Everything in the house made noise now. Small protests against time. The garden waited for her. Roses climbed the stone walls. Lavender bordered the path. Honeysuckle wound around the old oak tree. Henry had planted each one with care. At the garden's edge stood the gate. Iron, hand-forged, Victorian design with scrollwork and roses. Henry had made it himself when they first moved here. He had been so proud. Dorothy reached for the latch. She pulled. The gate didn't move. She pulled harder. Nothing. The hinges were rusted shut. Her hands trembled slightly. She gripped the cold iron. Pulled with all her strength. The gate groaned but stayed closed. Come on, please. She pulled again. Too hard. Her foot slipped on the wet grass. She fell. The ground was harder than she remembered. Her knee twisted. Pain shot up her leg. She lay there for a moment, breathing hard. The sky above was blue and indifferent. Oh, Henry. Everything's falling apart without you. A voice called from next door. It was Sarah, the young nurse who lived in the adjoining cottage. She had heard the fall. She rushed over, her face filled with concern. Mrs. Henderson, are you hurt? Sarah helped Dorothy to her feet. Checked her knee. Made her sit down. Brought her tea. Dorothy sat in her kitchen, ice on her knee. The gate remained closed. She stared at it through the window. You can't do everything alone anymore, Mrs. Henderson. Please, let me call someone to help with the gate. I'm fine, Sarah. Really, just a silly slip. But Dorothy wasn't fine. Everything was falling apart. The gate, the house, herself. That night, Dorothy didn't sleep well. She thought about Henry, about the gate, about growing old and useless. The next morning brought change. A removal van parked next door. The cottage beside hers had been empty for months. Now someone was moving in. Dorothy watched from her window. She told herself she wasn't being nosy, just observant. A man emerged from the van. He was perhaps 68. Tall but slightly stooped. Gray hair. Weather-worn face. He moved furniture with practiced ease. By afternoon, the man was in his garden. Dorothy was attempting to work in hers. Her knee still hurt. She moved slowly, carefully. The man looked over the low stone wall that separated their properties. He nodded politely. His eyes fell upon her gate. He studied it with professional interest. That's a beautiful gate. Victorian design, isn't it? The scrollwork is exquisite, but it looks like it needs some care. Dorothy's response was immediate and cool. My husband made it. I can manage, thank you. The man simply smiled. A gentle, understanding smile. Of course. I didn't mean to intrude. I just meant, it's lovely craftsmanship. Your husband was very talented. He extended his hand over the wall. Patrick Murphy. Just moved in. From County Cork originally, but I've been in London these past years. Retired carpenter. Dorothy hesitated, then shook his hand briefly. Dorothy Henderson. Nothing more. She turned back to her roses. But Patrick's eyes lingered on the gate. The way a craftsman looks at wounded wood. With sadness and possibility. If you ever need help with anything, I'm just next door. I've got time now. Too much of it, really. Dorothy didn't respond. She bent over her roses, dismissing him politely but firmly. That evening, Dorothy took out the photo albums. She found the picture of Henry building the gate. He was 45 in the photo. Strong, smiling, covered in forge dust. She traced his face with her finger. The glass was cold. Tears came quietly. They always did in the evenings. A week passed. Dorothy tried daily to fix the gate. She bought oil from the village hardware shop. Applied it carefully. The hinges remained stubborn. She tried to tighten the screws. Her hands weren't strong enough. The screwdriver slipped. She bruised her thumb. Each failure felt personal. A judgment. On Wednesday, she went to the village post office. Margaret was there. Margaret had taught music at the same school for 30 years. They had been colleagues. Friends. Dear, we haven't seen you at the book club for months. We miss you terribly. Dorothy sorted through her mail, not meeting Margaret's eyes. I've been busy with the garden. Busy hiding, you mean. The words hung in the air. Sharp but not unkind. Margaret touched Dorothy's arm gently. We all loved Henry. But he wouldn't want you to disappear. Dorothy's throat tightened. She managed a small smile and left quickly. That afternoon, her older daughter Jennifer called from Manchester. The conversation started pleasantly enough. Questions about health, weather, the garden. Then Jennifer's tone changed. Became careful. Prepared. Mum, Robert and I have been talking. We think you should consider moving to a retirement community. Something with support. The house is too big, and you're alone, and we worry. Dorothy's grip on the phone tightened. I'm perfectly fine. This is my home. Henry and I built our life here. I don't need anyone's pity. Mum, it's not pity. It's love. We just want you safe. I said I'm fine, Jennifer. Dorothy hung up. Her hands shook. She walked to the garden. The gate stood there, closed, mocking her. She gripped the iron bars. I can do this. I can do this alone. I don't need help. I don't need. Her voice broke. She sank onto the garden bench. And for the first time in months, she let herself cry fully. Deep, wrenching sobs. The garden absorbed her grief silently. The way it always had. Rain came on Thursday. Soft English rain that lasted all morning. Dorothy sat by her window with tea. Watched the drops slide down the glass. The garden looked gray and tired. Around 11, there was a knock at the door. Patrick stood there with an umbrella. He looked apologetic. Mrs. Henderson, I'm sorry to disturb you. But I noticed your roses are struggling. The climbing ones on the east wall. They need pruning before the summer heat. And the Japanese beetles are starting. Dorothy opened the door wider, surprised. Yes, I've noticed. Patrick shifted his weight, looking almost shy. My wife Mary loved roses. Grew them for 40 years. I learned everything from her. I miss taking care of them. Would you mind terribly if I helped? Just the roses. I promise I won't be a nuisance. Dorothy studied his face. There was no pity there. No judgment. Just loneliness that mirrored her own. I suppose. If you miss it, I do. Very much. Patrick worked in the rain. He moved quietly, efficiently. Dorothy watched from the kitchen. Then she made tea. She brought 2 cups to the covered porch. They sat in the old wicker chairs. Drank in silence for a while. Finally, Patrick spoke. My Mary passed 2 years ago. Cancer. Pancreatic. Very quick in the end. My Henry. 3 years. Heart attack. More silence. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Patrick looked at the closed gate. The hardest part isn't being alone. It's pretending you're not. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. She didn't wipe them away. Everyone thinks I should move on. Get out more, they say. Join clubs. Meet people. But this garden. This house. It's all I have left of him. If I leave, if I change things, it's like losing him again. Patrick nodded slowly. I understand. I kept Mary's sewing room exactly as she left it for a year. Couldn't bear to touch it. But one day I realized. She wouldn't want a shrine. She'd want life, mess, change, growth. He paused, choosing words carefully. Maybe your Henry would want the same. Maybe he'd want you to live, not just remember. Dorothy looked at this man she barely knew. This stranger who somehow understood. The gate won't open. I've tried everything. It's like the last thing Henry made, and I can't even take care of it properly. Patrick set down his cup. Would you let me look at it? Just look. No promises. Dorothy hesitated, then nodded. A month passed. Patrick came to the garden most mornings. He pruned, weeded, fixed a loose stone in the wall. Dorothy brought tea, biscuits. Sometimes they talked. Often they worked in comfortable silence. Patrick never mentioned the gate. But Dorothy noticed he studied it. Touched it occasionally, thinking. One Saturday morning, Patrick knocked earlier than usual. Would you come to the garden, Dorothy? There's something I'd like to show you. She followed him outside. The morning was bright, clear. Patrick stood by the gate. In his hands were tools. Oil, steel wool, new screws. I took the liberty. I hope you don't mind. The metalwork was beautiful. It just needed care, respect, time. He pushed the gate gently. It swung open, smoothly, silently. The hinges gleamed. Try it. Dorothy approached slowly. Her hand trembled as she touched the iron. She pushed. The gate opened like it was new. Oh, it's perfect. Your husband's work was excellent. Truly skilled. It just needed someone to remember how to care for it. Dorothy ran her fingers over the scrollwork. The iron roses. Henry's roses. And she felt something unexpected. Not sadness. Gratitude. Patrick. The village is having its spring fete next Saturday. There's a garden competition. Would you like to enter it with me? Together? Patrick's face lit up with genuine pleasure. I would be honored, Dorothy. Truly honored. That week they prepared the garden together. Trimmed. Planted new annuals. Repaired the broken trellis. It felt good. Purposeful. Alive. The gate stood open all week. Welcoming. 6 months later, autumn arrived. Dorothy's garden blazed with late-season color. Chrysanthemums. Asters. The roses gave their last blooms before winter. Dorothy had rejoined the book club. She even hosted it once. Patrick came too. They'd discovered a shared love of mystery novels. She still missed Henry, every day, but the missing had changed. It was softer now, warm instead of sharp, memory instead of wound. Her daughter Jennifer visited. She walked through the garden. Saw the open gate, the new plantings, saw her mother's face. Mum, you look happy. Dorothy smiled. A real smile. I am, dear. I've learned something important. Henry wouldn't want me to keep the gate closed. He'd want me to keep opening it. Every day. Jennifer looked at the iron gate, swinging gently in the breeze. The gate to your garden? Dorothy looked at her daughter with clear, peaceful eyes. No, darling. The gate to life. Patrick appeared at the wall, pruning shears in hand. Dorothy, shall we plant the daffodil bulbs today? They'll be beautiful next spring. Yes, Patrick. Let's plant for spring. Dorothy walked through the open gate. Into the garden. Into the world. Behind her, the gate stood wide. Hinges gleaming. Ready. Waiting. Not closed. Never closed again. Thank you for listening to The Garden Gate. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that it's never too late to open your heart to life again, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's grieving. Someone who's lonely. Someone who's forgotten how to let others in. Remember, every garden gate was meant to be opened. Every heart was meant to heal. And every new season brings the possibility of joy. Until next time, keep your gates open.